A lot of people asked about the rest of the Arch-Acolyte Soul Gem, seeing as I didn't get a chance to show it off during my main playthrough of the mod. I did go ahead and record all of it after finishing the mod's main story, and at the time had decided not to include it in the videos, given that it's about 20 minutes long. But due to popular demand in the comments, I am showing off the rest of the Soul Gem today in this bonus video of sorts, and discuss a couple of my other findings in regards to Death Consumes All. I hope you guys enjoy. Thank you for watching. First and foremost, let's see if we can continue her story or the quests that we have for her by starting this conversation. What do you think about Talos worship?
Talos is the hero of mankind. He ought to be revered.
And about him as a god?
I believe him, as do many of us. When the Aldmeri Dominion is brought to ruin, their false goddess executed, truth shall return to Tamriel.
And? Okay, here we go. But the Empire refused Talos. Some may call you a heretic. Why don't you join the Stormcloaks if you're so eager to have Talos restored? You trust me enough to tell me that?
To the fools from the Motiers of the Mathalons, I say what is required. But to you, there's no need to hide anything. I trust you because you've earned my faith. Speak your mind.
Okay. I guess that's that. So what I want to do, because of the fact that this is just so that I can kind of see how things work out, see how things go, I'm going to give myself the Blood of Energy and see what comes from it. So I'm just giving myself 10. We're going to use that on the Soul Gem. We're going to see what this does lead to. See if this has any bearing on the other quests or on the end of the mod. I'm doing this out of my own curiosity and because I would like to hear the rest of the story.
Amulius must have realized someone was trying to frame him. His manor would be impregnable, even if a legion besieged it. But in the empire of the Middies, basking in the glory of Cyrodiil, loyalty was but a commodity. I bought my entry with what was left of the Vici gold. Then I made my way to the bedroom of the young Salvians. Young Cassandra was reading her book, practicing spelling. Matthias was swinging his sword, pretending to be the swordsman that his father was. And little Livia was there, looking at me, laughing, singing, barely a few months old, expecting all the best in the world to happen. I had returned home, with my brother, his wife, and their little daughter. And they were killed by the soldiers of Amulius Salvian. My brother slaughtered by his comrades, his wife and daughter burned to death. Cassandra had become aware of my presence, and I knew it was time. I took the dagger, slit the nannies' throats as my targets fled, screaming. I grabbed the edge of Matthias's shirts, then shoved my dagger into his chest. The Salvian boy cried in pain, but the strike did not kill him.
Wait, your brother?
Then I readied the blade to make a second strike as 5 archers emerged from the balcony, revealing their trap. The champion of Cyrodiil used his own children as baits to lure the last Dubois, then he could kill her and secure his true legacy. I held my blade, all prepared to die with his son. But without a notice, Amulius's wife entered the room with a girl of roughly 5 years. She looked just like me, blonde hair, wide green eyes, thin chin, pronounced cheeks, the face of a Dubois. My brother's daughter never died. They killed my sister-in-law. Then they took my niece to keep her as their pet.
Suzanne Dubois.
His wife smiled at me, released my niece. The little girl then walked around, eventually returning to her lady, her face filled with innocence. I sighed in despair and let go of the young Salvian, realizing his father had won from the start. The noblewoman embraced her son with grace. Then she nodded to an archer before taking him to healer's care. Within a moment, a rain of arrows pierced a traitor, completing her path and set her free.
Okay. See, now this is adding a lot more context. This is adding a lot more, and it's starting to make more sense. Some of what we've seen already, some of what I already saw, definitely makes more sense now.
I survived, even though the arrows would have taken me.
Yeah, no shit.
The pain woke me up to my wounds. Believing I remained in danger, I observed the surroundings, realizing I was in a hut under a villager's care. The villager claimed that he had discovered my body in the wilderness. I was a step in death, but he managed to bring me back, being an alchemist. Said he did it for his family, because his father was a criminal, and he wanted to do some good to redeem his name. The world had branded his family a house of evil, yet he still attempted to change his view, and had been doing so since he had the ability. Yet, what have his efforts changed other than putting those villagers' faces of disdain from the open to the discreet? He just kept trying, and then, one day, I decided my wounds had been healed, and I told him I would not need to trouble him anymore. Not long after I had made my way, he found me in an abandoned camp. Said the villagers had kicked him out because they found a replacement. People change their attitudes, but rarely do they change their beliefs. He could make others see his value, but he would always be a criminal's son. As soon as they found someone of an equal value and with a clean name, those once blessed by his kindness and potions were the first to cast him away. What are the traitors if not men betrayed by their empire to make way for the champions? I saw myself in this man, and I knew in my heart that I had finally found someone I could trust. We saw one another for what we truly were.
Ooh.
I had known him and he had known me. Of the past that made us what we were, and what bound us together.
Ooh.
And then the traitors made their way to Skyrim, to home. But we both understood that vengeance persisted in me. My brother's murderer remained Chancellor, and my niece within his grasp. These feelings with Gillette would not last. But I took solace, knowing I would be at home at least for a while, before I seal my struggle forever.
Gillette? That's why she asked about him. Oh. See, yeah, this all gives a lot more context. A lot of this makes way more sense now.
We made our way to Skyrim, in some village no one would bother searching. What happened the last time my family settled in a village haunted me still, so I was prepared to silence this place when irregularities occur. The village has kept its peace with me, and so I kept mine. A few years passed. Not a moment had I forgotten the day when the Empire came with my brother's head, then killed his wife, and took my niece. I knew it was certain that one day, Gillette would wake up to an empty bed, and I would be set on the path which has no return. Yet on that very day I discovered something I had never imagined would come true, that I was pregnant with his child. Perhaps my old destiny was already completed, that as the Salvian arrows took me, I was granted rebirth under Gillette's hands, gifted with a new destiny. Perhaps fate was telling me, through my child, that I no longer had to bear a traitor's legacy, but to find my own within my new family. I did not dare think too much. For a woman who had run since she was but a girl, Happiness came too easily. Even so, I would take this chance to be a mother. I would protect my child with Gillette, so that they never lose their home as I once did. This child must not inherit their parents' legacy.
So the kid's dead. Do you want to take bets on that? Because I'm willing to bet kid's dead. Also, out of curiosity, I looked a couple things up just now. I took a little break, decided to look a couple things up, because I wanted to know definitively what got you the good ending. The good ending is a bit of a drag to get. To get the good ending, you need to complete Lady in the Tower, which is the quest about Livia. It is the quest where she opens up to you. The good ending is where she survives. But to get the good ending, you have to complete Lady in the Tower, which involves just going around all of Skyrim, essentially until she opens up more about herself. That is the main trigger for getting the good ending, the ending where she survives. It doesn't have to do specifically with the soul gem. It seems it's basically about her. And the romance is optional. The romance is optional. It is separate from Lady in the Tower, but Lady in the Tower is how you get her to survive, how you get the quote-unquote good ending for the mod. It doesn't have to do with the alchemist or anything else, really. So, now I know. Also, for the soul gem, you can get Blood of Energy, the item you need to unlock the soul gem, not just from the acolytes, but you can also get them from bandit leaders. So, once again, that's the thing of I didn't know until I looked it up, but now that I have beaten the mod, now that I have gotten that ending, I'm kind of learning to some degree. I am still going to listen to the soul gems, because I want to highlight that the voice actress did such an incredible job. Moline Dubois did an incredible job with her voice talent, so I do want to continue playing this. And it does add much more context to the rest of Death Consumes All as well, the later stages of the mod that we had after this.
I named our son Espar, the child who bears our wishes and carries our hopes. He grew up to be a happy boy, despite all that his parents went through. That was what I had hoped, for my son to grow away from our past. Then, one day, Espar told me he wanted to join the Legion, serve his country, his innocent eyes filled with faith, ignorant of its true color. It was then I realized how long I had, since my son's birth, forgotten the pain my family went through for faith. Twice my family fought in the Empire's name. Twice suffered my family's champion a traitor's death. My son must not walk the same path. But what can a mother do with her curious child, so eager to see the world, unknowing of its danger? Espar ignored our plea and left the house one night in pursuit of an Empire's glory, looking to be a champion. Then one day, when Gillette went hunting, a boy in his shining armor came knocking at my door. Behind him was a legionnaire. She saw my face, then gave out a smile of joy, that of a hunter finding her prey. Immediately, Espar picked up on my signs of fear and ran the fastest he could. She didn't bother for a pursuit and instead cast fireballs at him. My son dodged the first one, but quickly, she began casting the second. She was determined to kill my boy, and I couldn't allow it to pass. Hands shivering, I stabbed the legionnaire in the back. She stopped her attacks and turned to my fearful self. She laughed hysterically, then held my shaking body, let out a storm of fire. After that, it was only silence. The next moment I became conscious, I found myself amidst scorched houses and broken bodies. The legionnaire was no longer there. Neither was Espar. A mother's instinct drove me to search for my son. I feared, I prayed, hoping that my son was safe. Then, not far from the village, I found Espar.
Dead.
He was crawling on the ground.
Close.
Struggling in great pain.
Close to dead.
He tried to cling to life, but his wounds denied him this chance. I held Espar in my arms. With great effort, he opened his eyes, smiled to his mother. Holding my tears, I gave his forehead one final kiss. Then, as hope faded from him, my little son died in my silence. I couldn't let go of my son. I thought silence could keep Espar out of this world's evil, that by being ignorant of my family's legacy he wouldn't inherit it. But in doing so, I failed my child. Death consumed him. Once again,
Death consumed.
Left with nothing but my regrets.
I got the title in there.
Regrets can push men farther than wrath does. A mother's grief is one which prevails over any value and faith. I began learning necromancy against Gillette's wish. People condemn this to be a betrayal to nature, but why did it matter if I am already a traitor? Gillette eventually left my side, failing to convince me out of necromancy. Easy for him to be moral when it wasn't him that got our son killed. In the end, I found the Slode, offered me a world where I shall be free and safe. Promises of the Empire's downfall and my son's return.
There you go.
And so the outcasts of the world work together to bring the champions down, and I once again embraced my fate. The Empire needed its villains, just as the champions needed their traitors. For it was from those villains the victors defined what was evil. If I win, I have my son again, and the cycle of champions and traitors will finally be sealed.
Okay, see, now so much more of this makes sense. So much more of this has context. It is a little long-winded. I will say it is getting a little long-winded. I love the narration, but I feel like there's so much downtime as a result of it. I love the story, but it's very, very long.
I gathered individuals of great promise, made them acolytes of the Lord of Death. They are the vessels of his plague who spread it to the unknowing. When all has been set for his plan, he gave me a choice of where death shall begin its consumption of this world.
Skyrim.
The Imperial City.
Oh.
Seat of an empire that makes traitors out of patriots.
Never mind.
Coral. Home to that champion whose honor is built upon others' dishonor. They were the reason my family has suffered so. If I unleashed the plague in these cities, then my vengeance would have been completed. But I looked back on my paths of the choices I've made. The homes I've had.
Skyrim.
I was once a girl seeking safety and warmth.
Skyrim.
Relying on her family for hope. All this while, I have never changed. I have always hoped for peace. Hope is what made me. The hope for peace, for freedom, for justice, for my son. I hoped for peace. Yet the warmongers who profit from conflict would not cease until every home of the enemies in their eyes lies in ashes. I hoped for safety, yet in a world driven by the order the heroes have forged, villains are permitted to none but death. I hoped for justice, yet it was never meant to stand on a traitor's side. For what is just to me is injustice to all who profit from the gods' plan. My son was my final, most beautiful hope. Then he stopped to be, taken by a champion and his soldier. Then I remembered my brother's girl, his hope. Was she not to be the new start for our family, away from that burning, painful past? A new start, a land of hope, where crops could grow on what was barren. Then it all ended in a burning and collapsing cellar. Traitors are not made by the champions, but by those who believe in and benefit from them. Once my family has been branded, our legacy was sealed. The people of that village listen to the champions, just like all who live under the light. As the sheep let the shepherd into the field, to exterminate the dogs which they thought were wolves. The dog who survived shall come back to the field, infest the sheep with diseases, spread to the shepherd, and to his other fields. I went to the village, prepared to meet my destiny. As if it had been fated, I was found by Gillette on my way. He begged me to forget Espar and my revenge, to sail with him to Atmora, start again, away from the champions and the plague.
This was recent.
I realized that even without hope, love remained by my side. It was my strength, my drive, my home. But I was already blessed with the Lord of Death's power. Love stood before me, yet death has consumed it long ago.
Boom. Done. Use the soul gem again to meet the traitor.
Look at the sky. Is it going to rain?
Look at the sky, it's gonna be night.
We will bring the light to this place.
Okay, now we have a dialogue option with her. Malene Dubois once tried to kill you and your siblings when you were a baby.
But I've never heard of this.
She entered your family's manor while your parents used you as bait.
Matthias and Cassandra must have known, if that was true. But they've never told me a word about this. The Arch-Acolyte lied to sway me. She must have. To turn patriots against country, children against parents.
We can get the truth from your father when we meet him.
He'll tell me what I'll tell you. The Arch-Acolyte lied, and we would be foolish to trust an enemy's word. I know Amulius Selvian is the greatest champion in Cyrodiil, and he would never have put his family at such risks, however high his cause is.
You want to ask Matthias about his chest scar then? Or perhaps he did it exactly because he is the champion.
You mean to say he cared more about hunting a traitor than his own children?
I didn't say that, you did. Have your parents ever loved you? If not, what's to stop them from doing so?
Of course they do. Why would a father not love his son, mother not love her daughter? Is that not how parents and children are meant to be?
Meant to be?
They couldn't care for me always, but they made up with providing me freedom.
Ooh.
I, Cassandra, Matthias, all of us, were free to pursue our paths.
You're answering your own question here. And then Cassandra married a noble, Matthias became a general, and you a legionnaire?
What do you mean?
Doesn't sound free. They never had to force you. Just made you think being the good girl is right.
I chose to love my country, and I chose to defend it. They taught me every virtue I knew, and it was up to me to accept them. This path is mine. I only found walking my father's path a good choice, and in that, I know I'm free.
You chose what your father needed you to choose. That's the freedom you had. You only think what you think is right because your father told you so. First one.
But he is my father. And against him, the eagle. If I do not stand on his side, then is it not different from standing with the Thalmor?
It's not that black and white. You only think what you think is right because your father told you so.
If the champion of Cyrodiil himself finds something right, then how can it not be?
Malene was Gillette's wife.
Gillette? That Breton from Whiterun? He lied to us. tricked us into thinking the mistress was the arch-acolyte, when he knew who she was all along.
He allowed his personal feelings to outweigh what's right. He was only human. Not all are meant to make sacrifice for the world. He was selfish. He lacked sight of the greater good. Ooh, he only did what he had to save his wife. You would have done the same. He was only human. Not all are meant to sacrifice for the world.
Yet he has sacrificed everyone else just to keep his wife safe. Tell me what happened between Gillette and Marlene. I want to know if their past has ever amounted to anything.
They once had a son. He was their hope, and a legionnaire murdered him.
But we were supposed to deliver hope.
Do you pity Malene? Malene Dubois' crimes brought her son that fate. The boy owed it to his mother. No, do you pity her? Uh-huh, yeah, look at that.
Marlene would have been happy if she had a different name.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end, whatever love Gillette once held for Marlene had been buried with him by the very woman he loved and defended.
The Arch-Acolyte emerged as Malene Dubois began the end.
The traitor found home in her legacy. That which she inherited, and that which she gave birth to.
Malene met with Gillet one last time. She found home and love at last, but death consumed it long before that chance.
And so it has. Death became home to Marlene Dubois. No turning back, no way out. The girl, the fugitive, the traitor, and the Arch-Acolyte at last. I wonder if it was fated. Did she choose this legacy, or did this legacy choose her?
Her location has been revealed. We'll decide when we meet her.
And so, we'll meet the traitor at last. Let's go when we're prepared, because the Arch-Acolyte will be. As we find her, we'll find the Lord of Death, and mark an end to this.